What's a fact that's technically true but nobody understands correctly? 77% of car accidents happen within 15 miles of home. That's because a very large portion of driving happens within 15 miles of the home. This is why I always take off my seatbelt once I get outside of the 15-mile radius. A majority of shark attacks happen in shallow water. A majority of people are in shallow water. On the same note, surfers and fishermen tend to be attacked because they spend a disproportionate amount of time in the water. Half of all marriages end in divorce. It may be true, but a lot less than half of first marriages end in divorce. There are repeat offenders. How many first marriages end in divorce? Between 35% to 40% of first marriages end in divorce. The factors that really affect divorce rates are age, education level, if you have previously been divorced, and whether your parents are divorced. Life expectancy in the past being 30. Infant mortality rates were very, very high in a lot of eras, which brings the average age at time of death significantly lower. People definitely lived till they were 70, and many people lived into their 50s. Dead babies are the cause of this misconception. The right to free speech only protects you from legal repercussions. There is a little bit more to it than that. Your civil liberties only protect you from government action. Exactly. The government can't punish you for the things you say, except all the times they can, but your work, the general public, etc., they can all punish you. A lady spilled hot coffee in her lap at McDonald's and then sued the company and won $2.9 million. Everybody now thinks it's easy as hell to sue and get big money. Lots of people think the court system and our laws are all fucked up. I am an attorney and defend medium and small businesses against liability suits of all types. People sue over trivial stuff all the time hoping to cash in. Most of the time, they get their case dismissed or they get a nominal settlement after they've invested tons of time and effort in their case and gotten exhausted and frustrated to the point that they just want out of the case already. Also, most folks don't know it, but the McDonald's restaurant where the injury happened screwed up by ignoring many complaints that their coffee was literally boiling and burning people. Plus, the lady who sued really got seriously injured and required extensive medical treatment. The kicker: the judge reduced the jury's verdict from $2.9 million down to about $640,000. McDonald's appealed, and while the appeal was pending, the parties settled for a sum rumored to be about $400,000 to $500,000. And the only reason she sued was because after her repeated requests for McDonald's to just pay her medical expenses, they basically told her to shove it. That there are more slaves in the world today than at any prior time in history. In terms of absolute numbers, this is correct. Percentage-wise, there are far fewer. You only use 10% of your brain. People misinterpret this statement all of the time. At any given time you are using around 15 to 25% of your brain, i.e. those parts show some measurable electrical activity at any instance. However, 100% of your brain is used in total over time. Everybody always loves to point out how wrong it is, but they are just not understanding what the quote is trying to say. It's less. You may have some awesome brain powers if you could unlock some hidden potential, and more. You don't have the energy or the need to keep more than only part of your brain active at any time. The average page of a book is only 20% covered in ink. Imagine the wonders of literature we could have if only 100% of the page were covered in ink. The memory in my computer was only about 30% ones and 70% zeros. All of these computer guys were trying to rip me off. So I modified it to be 100% ones, and now it runs so fast I can't even use it anymore. Neuroscientist here. This isn't really correct either. Most of us have no idea where this 10% myth came from. It isn't a misreading of some correct sentence, it's just completely false. Pretty much all of your neurons are always in a state of sporadic firing, although they increase and decrease in relative activity over time. There are no parts of the brain that just lie there completely dormant, ever. Even in deep sleep there is electrical activity throughout the brain, it just becomes synchronized. The US education system is terrible. It can't compete with countries like South Korea. First off, I live in South Korea. Some of them go into high school at 7 and leave at midnight, then go to private schools for a few hours before going home to sleep. They also have the highest suicide rate in the world for youths. Second, the US education system isn't necessarily bad. It's that inner city schools completely throw off the middle. The debate shouldn't be about the education system but how we treat these low-income districts. Edit. I've worked here for 5 years in the education system and I'm married to a Korean. She told me that she typically slept for 3 hours a night during her senior year and went to school 7 days a week. That was about 10 years ago, and it's gotten worse since then. Women are experiencing more miscarriages than ever before, when really, we've developed pregnancy tests that can detect pregnancy sooner. What was just a few days late on their period for women 20+ years ago is now a detectable pregnancy. Same with breast cancer. We've increased early detection, but women aren't living longer, they're living the same amount of time, but knowing they have cancer for a longer time. Gravity is almost the same in ISS as it is where you are now. Explain? The Earth is pulling on the astronauts in orbit almost as hard as it pulls on you or me. The difference is that they are in constant free fall, and so they are weightless. We can also be weightless, but only for short periods of time. For example, a bungee jumper or parachute jumper would be approximately weightless until the cord started stretching until the chute opened, see edit below. So the reason they don't hit the ground isn't that there's no gravitational force pulling them towards the Earth, but that their very fast sideways motion, over 7 km/s, makes them miss. If the ISS stood still relative to the Earth, it would crash into the surface within minutes. Evolution. People say they believe in evolution, but don't understand why they're still monkeys. Riding on your coattails, but I'd like to add how many people misunderstand what a scientific theory is. It's just a theory. We don't know for sure. I like to remind these people that gravity is also a theory, and our knowledge of it has allowed us to land several spacecraft on Mars. Some claim evolution is just a theory, as if it were merely an opinion. The theory of evolution, like the theory of gravity, is a scientific fact. Evolution really happened. Accepting our kinship with all life on Earth is not only solid science. In my view, it's also a soaring spiritual experience. Neil deGrasse Tyson. When people order a steak, rare, or very rare, the red fluid coming out of the meat is not actually blood. It is a protein, which happens to be red like blood. The real blood of the beef would be clotted at that point in time, so your rare steak is not bloody at all. I don't have to agree with you in order to understand you. For whatever reason, political conversations always seem to forget this fact. I'm pretty sure the logic goes, if he doesn't agree with me, he must not understand me, because if he understood my point, he would agree with my conclusion. A meme is not necessarily an animal advice style image with text slapped on it. A meme is a cultural phenomenon that becomes viral. It can be an image, a saying, an idea, joke, or anything really. 9 out of 10 times on Reddit people are misusing the term. It is possible to make every correct move in a game and still lose. If an intelligent species 67 million light-years away from us look into their telescopes and see Earth right now, they will see dinosaurs. That would be a damn good telescope. Or a fucking huge dinosaur. Almost all things gain density when shifting from liquid to solid, but frozen water floats on liquid water. We're bloody lucky it floats on water too. Think of the ramifications for life if ice sunk to the bottom of the pond. Well, really the only ramification is we couldn't walk or skate on it. However, no skating would mean no hockey would mean no Canada means no maple syrup, no syrup means waffles would just look ridiculous and be looked down upon, and the fall of waffle popularity means Belgium is completely useless. 2 countries taken out of existence just because ice doesn't float. Occam's razor doesn't say that the simplest explanation is usually the right one. It says that we shouldn't add unnecessary complexity to an explanation when a simpler one is sufficient. Meaning you still need an explanation capable of fully explaining something, even if the explanation is complex. Psychologist here. I think a really good one is that venting your frustrations makes you feel better. People take it for granted that talking about problems distress makes you feel better without having a clue of why this works. People have no concept of why moving your vocal cords results in a reduction of psychological distress and anxiety. The answer is that when we discuss our anxiety, we are creating new memories that are more easily processed by the amygdala of the brain. Essentially, talking about your difficulties exposes you to them. The longer you have exposure to a stress-producing stimulus, the less your body reacts to it, hence you get a reduction in anxiety. You don't get colds from the cold. Murphy's Law stating that anything that can go wrong will go wrong. For those who may still understand it wrong, Murphy's Law is most easily explained from a programming product design point of view. It states that you cannot leave loose ends that could mess up your product that have a minutely small chance of happening and bank on them not happening. If there is a way for your programmed product to be messed up by a consumer, it will happen, so you have to fix it. That second example is a confirmation bias. We never remember when we plan a day at the beach and it doesn't rain. But on the day it does rain, we remember the slim predicted chance and extrapolate that it would not have rained if we had gone to the beach. What's a fact that's technically true but nobody understands correctly? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.